Alright, so I'm here in the area of the Gosford Glyphs, like near the main road, and I see this sign here that says area under surveillance, right? Here, have a look at it. Like, look at that, area under surveillance. It's just out in the bush nowhere, and it's just like, why would you have, I mean, is that saying that there's security cameras around here? It's like, why would you need this area to be under surveillance? It's just like, it's near a sort of country town, and it's just bushland, you know? It makes you wonder what's the truth about the Gosford Glyphs. Why are they monitoring this area? You know, I remember a time in like back in 2002 or something when people would talk about Singapore and be like, oh my God, there's cameras everywhere on the streets in Singapore and you can't spit out chewing gum on the street without getting into trouble and stuff. But it's just like over time, it's like, I mean, it's like people have just forgotten about it and just cameras have become a normal thing. So now Australia is just probably today has way more cameras than what Singapore had back in 2002. And like, you just don't hear much complaint about it. It's just like, it's just not being complained about. It's interesting. All right, so I'm walking down the trail to see the hieroglyphs. This Parks Victoria car rocked up. Actually, it was like some sort of car that for the water people. I don't know what it's called. No, sorry, not Parks Victoria. It was just something for waterways, like some sort of government car or something. And I just thought, oh, what was that? Like, it just rocked up in the car park, and then it drove off. But I just thought, oh, it would be funny if some sort of monitoring. You never know. But it just looked at me, and I was just like, okay, like, what the hell? Like, it's just interesting, you know, because it's just, it could be such a really, really important site, but I mean, it's not even signed. There's no signs here saying possible Egyptian site. Like, it just seems interesting, like it's covered up. Anyway, I'm just reading something about Carryong Sacred Land Aboriginal Place. Okay, so I read the sign, and it didn't even mention anything about the hieroglyphs or anything. It just said this area is a sacred Aboriginal site. There's some art carvings or something like that, and the people who don't believe that these are Egyptian hieroglyphs, they don't say that they're Aboriginal hieroglyphs. They just say that it was done in the past 50 years. So it just seems like a cover-up, because it's just like, why is there just no mention of it at all? I think there should be a mention of it. And the fact that it says something about surveillance, like this area is under surveillance, is just like, what the hell? Like, that's just bizarre. Anyway, just when things are kept quiet, it just seems a little bit odd, like something's going on. Okay, so there's two trails, and that's the one we're going to go down to see the hieroglyphs. And of course, the sign here just says Brisbane Water National Park. Wow, that's a really important sign. We really needed that sign, Brisbane Water National Park. Like, oh, that's essential at this juncture. Like, maybe another sign that says like hieroglyphs this way or something. Alright, so I'm at the entrance to the Gosford Glyphs. Got my fancy camera out to get good images, and there's this big tree here. Reminds me of like a Harry Potter movie or something. Apparently you head up there and that's where they are, and the nearest sign that says watch out for the falling rocks. So we'll zoom this out a little bit. It's a cool tree. It's not too hard to find, and it's really not that far walk from the main road. It's pretty nice. Alright, I know I'm in the area where they are, but a matter of finding them is another story. I've got to find this sign about watch out for falling rocks, and that'll indicate where it is. But yeah, I'm in the area, but this could take a while trying to find. But this is what it's like being an amateur archaeologist. It's kind of strange up here, because on the way up I've noticed little piles of rocks and little piles of there's firewood, like, I don't know, just piles of sticks. It's just kind of, like, maybe there's an Aboriginal tribe doing this, or I don't know, it's just kind of strange. What if it's Bigfoot? My God. I think I'm in the right area. Like, have a look at this. Look at this. Looks like it's been freshly pressure cleaned inside that rock. It's actually the sand. I'll go up and press it. Yeah, it's got sand. Interesting. So I'm towards the top of the little hill, and if I zoom in like that, you can see the ocean in the distance behind those trees, hopefully. Like, you can see it much better if you're in person. Obviously cameras aren't good enough to see it, but I can see the town in the background and the bay. Alright, so this is it. This is the sign. Alright, somewhere here. I'll find it. Alright, looking here. I have to tell you what, this is probably the spot where you're supposed to duck in and find it. Up there, I bet you it's up there. I'll have a look. I bet you it's in this little gap. So it's sort of hidden away. Alright, so through here, through this little gap, I bet you that's it. That's the little wall, the crevice that it's in. It's up there, I bet you. Okay, so here we are. I've got my fancy camera and I put a light on it so that we can see better. And as you can see, there's some carvings. Have a look at that. That looks like actually a fresh one. That could be some sort of prank one. Look at that. But these ones here, see these ones here? They could be Egyptian hieroglyphs from thousands of years ago. Very interesting. And it's really not that far from the main road, so it should be more accessible, but it's not. And I've only seen 2 people here, on the way here. I mean, there should be more. It's just crazy. Even if it's a prank, I think there kind of should be more. But yeah, it's this gap between the 2 things. So I'll zoom in. See that? Let's have a look. I'll do it so you can actually full on see symbols. Like, look at this. Egyptian. I bet you the Freemasons know about this stuff. Have a look at this. Look at that Egyptian man with the bird head. It honestly wouldn't surprise me if there were ETs visiting the Egyptians that had bird heads, because one of the remote viewers saw that, and the remote viewer didn't say it was a person with a mask on their head made to look like a bird. They sort of perceived it as actually being a person with a bird head. So it's interesting. There's some more up here. Oh, we'll change the lighting. Oh, that's actually better with the lighting on low. Okay. Look at that. Completely ignored by the mainstream. I would probably believe this is a scam if it weren't for there being other evidence for the Egyptians visiting faraway places like in the Americas. Apparently there's even evidence in New Zealand. So if it wasn't for those other things, then I'd probably think it is a scam, but there's something going on. Wow, it looks way better with this light turned massively down. You can see the gaps and everything. Wow, I really stuffed up by having the light on before. Here you go, look at this stuff, look at all this. Fascinating. That looks like a rocket ship. Alright, look at this. It's good to record this for the future, because you never know if the men in black or the government decide to get rid of it. Seriously, they've done it with apparently other sites in Australia. That's what the rumours are. They've just come and just taken them away. Like there was an Australian Stonehenge and it just got taken away. Here's a UFO looking thing. See, another thing that they can do is that if they want to cover this up, they could, and when people started finding out about it, they could have come here and carved some extra things to make it, the message of it not make sense, and then they could age the new carvings they made and go, see, look, these were just done recently by pranks. These are all done by pranksters and stuff. So intelligence agencies can interfere with these sorts of things and plant evidence to just mess it up and confuse it. If they're willing to cover it up, then they're obviously willing to come here and carve stuff and say, oh look, it must have been uni students, and then it covers up the real carvings. You never know. Always got to have an open mind. Okay, so this is kind of what it looks like. It's one wall going down with writings. There's my film bag down there, and then there's the other wall with the writings on it, and it stops. It stops about there or something. See that up there? It looks like a mummy lying down. I'll zoom in. Look at that, a mummy. Alright, and what are these here? Don't know. Is that another UFO one up there? What the hell? What's that one? I don't know. This location reminds me of Hanging Rock in Victoria. So it wouldn't surprise me if Hanging Rock has some things written there. It wouldn't surprise me, because it's easy to miss these things, you know. I mean, it's pretty easy to not see this thing here. It's like, unless people really look. That's what's kind of cool for the future. There's probably heaps of more things to discover in all over the world. Okay, so here is the big tree leaning over, and this is the key point. When you get this tree, you know you're in the right area. You just head up and you go towards the right, and somewhere in there is the glyphs. There's a sign, actually. I'll zoom in on the sign. Boulders, watch out. That's right where the entrance is, just in there. Okay, so I'm heading back to the car now. So I'm just thinking what I learnt from checking out these hieroglyphs. I don't find it that fascinating. I can't translate them. I don't know what they mean. I think it's interesting that some look like UFOs. I think I'm back at the trail now. But what I do find interesting is that there's no attention being put on them. I find that interesting. And it's interesting with the rumours about government covering it up and stuff. I just think there's more to this. I think that the Egyptologist who translate it tells an interesting story, makes sort of sense. But yeah, I actually mainly wanted to come here and get some recordings of it in case it gets taken down. Now apparently there's more things in this area. There's underground chambers or something like that, and some like rock walls that look like they're from like South America and stuff. Those ones where there's no gaps between the joins and the rocks. So it's pretty interesting. I can't be bothered looking for them, to be honest, and it's getting late. But you know, when I first heard Rex Gilroy talk about these sorts of things, I mean, you think, to be honest, you think he's a nutter. But then you look into it and you're like, yeah, there's all these like ancient sites that are just being ignored by the mainstream, and it's possibly some cover-up, really. So it's interesting. The condition that our history is in is really bad. It's just not accurate at all. And also, some of these ancient things could have something to do with Atlantis. And that's why some people might laugh and go, oh, Atlantis never existed, and it's just like, yeah, it could have, absolutely. It could have been an advanced worldwide civilization back 13,000 years ago and it got wiped out. And then what we have left is some odd, unusual rock things that are covered up and overgrown and you can barely tell. The thing is that civilization tends to build up along the coastlines of things. And so when the Atlantis flood happened, most of the towns were on the coastline, so they got covered underwater. So like right now, if we had a huge cataclysm and the sea level rose by like 120 meters, so many of our cities would be covered. And then if the other ones, the ones that were more further inland and higher up, if they got wiped out in big storms, eventually with time, trees would overgrow them, and eventually you'll just get left with some odd rocks and some odd people who have, some amateur archaeologists who have come across it, and they're going, hey, there's something really unusual here, have a look at it. And then people will laugh and go, there's no such thing as the American civilization, what are you talking about? Ha ha ha. But yeah, look, I'm very certain that 13,000 years ago there was a big catastrophe and it wiped out an advanced civilization. I just think there's a lot of evidence for it. Okay, so